Too many people spend their lives frustrated, exhausted, and disappointed, all because they are trying to control something that was never theirs to control. No matter how much you plead, push, or expect, people will not become exactly who you want them to be. They weren't created to fit inside your idea of them. They weren't designed to live up to your personal standards. And yet, how often do we waste time trying to fix, shape, or change someone else? We think if they would just listen, if they would just do things differently, if they would just be more like this, then everything would be better. But that's not how life works. You are not the potter. You are not the sculptor of someone else's soul. That role belongs to God alone. The moment we try to take that power into our own hands, we set ourselves up for disappointment. People will fail you. They will make choices you don't understand. If your hope is tied to a person never letting you down, you will live in a constant cycle of frustration and heartbreak. That's why Scripture warns us not to place anyone on a pedestal. You can admire someone's wisdom, you can learn from their experiences, but the second you start expecting perfection from another human being, you are setting yourself up for a fall. So what do? You let go. You surrender the idea that it's your job to make someone change. You stop clenching your fists around what is not yours to control, and you trust God with their journey. You shift your focus back to the only person you can change, yourself. And here's where it gets real. No one is going to force you to grow. No one is going to drag you into a better life. You don't have to put in effort. You don't have to go the extra mile in your family, at work, or in your faith. You don't have to live with discipline or integrity. But don't expect to rise while standing still. Don't expect to thrive without making the choices that lead to growth. God has given you free will. You can live passively, staying exactly where you are, or you can choose to walk in purpose. But make no mistake, every choice has a consequence. No one stumbles into success. No one drifts into a meaningful life by accident. If you want to see God move in your life, you have to step into what He's calling you to do. You have to be willing to let go of control, trust His process, and commit to walking in obedience. Because when you do, you won't just get by, you will flourish. The choice is in your hands. You can float through life letting the days slip by without direction, or you can step into the fullness of what God has for you. But know this, it will cost you. Nothing of real value comes without effort. The ones who rise, the ones who walk in true purpose, are the ones willing to put in the work. You don't have to chase success. You don't have to push yourself beyond what's comfortable. But make no mistake, opportunity is available to those who are willing to pursue it with everything they have. The question is, will you? Greatness isn't for the faint of heart. It demands more than you ever expected. It will stretch you, challenge you, and require sacrifices you never thought you'd have to make. That's why so few ever reach their full potential. Not because they couldn't, but because they wouldn't. The door was open, but the price, letting go of comfort, walking away from easy distractions, and staying disciplined when no one was looking, was more than they were willing to pay. And when you see someone walking in the kind of blessings you've been praying for, don't assume it came easily to them. What looks like overnight success is almost always years of unseen faithfulness. Before you ever noticed their growth, they were sowing seeds in secret, choosing discipline over ease, perseverance over quitting, trusting God even when the results weren't immediate. And then come the storms, because they will come. Some of them will be the result of life's trials. But let's be honest, some will be storms we created ourselves, built from the choices we made. But even then, it's not too late. Don't let regret consume you. Don't let bitterness take root. Let the rain be your reminder, a reminder to turn back, to realign, to step back into what God has called you to do. Because your story isn't over. Your mistakes don't define you, and the life God has for you, it's still waiting, but you have to be willing to step into it. Surround yourself with people who don't just speak about faith, but live it. Those who lift others up, who see God's fingerprints on your life, even when you struggle to see them yourself. Walk with those who recognize the calling inside you, who remind you of it when doubt clouds your mind, and who encourage you to keep going when you feel like giving up. The right people won't let you settle for less than what God has planned. They'll challenge you, pray for you, and push you forward when you're tempted to shrink back. Life doesn't come with guarantees, and tomorrow is never promised. Yet how often do we rush through our days without realizing the weight of each moment? We waste time worrying about what's next or dwelling on what's already past, forgetting that right now, this breath, this opportunity, this conversation is a gift from God. Instead of waiting until hindsight teaches us what we should have cherished, we're called to wake up today and recognize what God is doing in the present. This journey isn't about chasing success, knowledge, or approval. It's about becoming more like Jesus, stronger in faith, softer in heart, willing to surrender when the world tells us to control. Real transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's built in the small, unseen choices. It's waking up with purpose, choosing to spend time in His presence, and committing to grow even when it's uncomfortable. Every act of obedience, every step of faith, every sacrifice, it's all shaping you into who God created you to be. So rise, seek Him first, walk the path He's laid before you, not with hesitation but with boldness. Because every single day He is working in you, preparing you, refining you for something greater than you can imagine. Life has a way of pulling us in every direction. One moment we're chasing dreams with excitement, and the next we're hit with obstacles that shake our confidence. It's easy to get caught up in the rush, measuring our worth by progress, success, or approval. But before anything else, you need to remember this: God placed something powerful inside you. You were created with intention, not by accident or mistake. The abilities, passions, and purpose within you were designed by God Himself. The world may try to convince you that you're not enough, that you need to prove your worth, that you have to keep up, that you'll never be who you hope to be. But don't buy into that lie. The truth is, God has already placed everything you need within you, and no setback, failure, or delay can take that away. But here's where many people struggle. When challenges come, they start doubting. They forget how far they've come. They forget that God has been faithful before and will be faithful again. The hard times aren't meant to stop you. They're meant to strengthen you. Every battle you face is shaping you, preparing you, refining you. You don't grow in comfort. You grow in resistance. That's why you can't give up when things get difficult. Don't let disappointments drain your passion. Don't let the weight of life make you forget why you started. God didn't bring you this far to leave you now. When the pressure builds, when you feel like you have nothing left to give, that's when you press in. That's when you stand on the foundation of faith that God built inside you. When you feel like you can't take another step, when doubt whispers that it's not worth it, don't look at your own strength. Look to the one who never leaves you. Your hope doesn't rest on your emotions, your circumstances, or even your determination. It comes from a God who refuses to give up on you, no matter how impossible things seem. Life will test you. Some days the weight of your struggles will feel unbearable. But faith isn't about pretending the hardships aren't real. It's about believing that even in the struggle, God is still working. True hope isn't just wishful thinking. It's the confidence that God is leading you toward something greater, even when you can't see it yet. We aren't meant to live trapped by fear, by the expectations of others, or by the limitations this world tries to put on us. When we trust in God, we step into a freedom that allows us to dream, to move forward without fear, and to stand firm in the truth that our worth isn't defined by what others think, but by the love of Christ that never wavers. And when we live this way, grounded in faith, pressing forward in hope, our lives shine. We become a source of strength for those who are struggling, showing them that they too can rise. This kind of hope doesn't just sit still, it moves. It drives us to keep pushing forward, to trust even when the road is hard, and to believe that God is shaping us into exactly who He created us to be. And as we walk in that faith, we invite others to do the same, becoming living proof of His power and love. When life pushes against you with everything it has, when you feel like you're fighting a battle that won't let up, remember, victory isn't about who's the strongest or the most gifted. It's about heart, it's about endurance, it's about what you're willing to lay down to keep going. If you've poured out your energy, your time, your very soul into what God has placed in front of you, no obstacle can take that from you. The road may be hard, but what God has called you to is worth more than the struggles trying to stop you. A person's true character isn't revealed when everything is going their way. It's when life gets tough, when nothing makes sense, when the weight feels unbearable. That's when you see what's really inside you. Faith isn't built in comfort. It's refined in difficulty, shaped in the moments when you have every reason to quit, but choose to keep trusting God instead. When you've given your all, your sweat, your prayers, your very heart, what you're working for becomes part of you. That's why people who haven't sacrificed much can walk away so easily. But if you've fought for something, if you've given everything to it, you won't let go without a fight. And here's what you need to know. God sees what you've poured out. Nothing you've given for Him will ever be wasted. In His kingdom, the struggles you endure, the battles you face, the sacrifices you make, none of it is overlooked. The harder the fight, the greater the reward. And when you give all you have for what is right, He will be the one to make sure it was never in vain. When you've poured everything into this journey, your faith, your hope, your very soul, it changes you. It marks you. The battles you've fought, the sacrifices you've made, the prayers you've whispered in the silence, none of it has gone unnoticed. Every tear, every ache, every moment you chose to trust, when doubt clawed at your mind, has been seen by the one who called you. So stand firm, even when the weight feels unbearable, even when the road stretches further than your strength can carry you. Even when everything in you wants to turn back, because what God is building in you is not fragile, it's not temporary, it's not something that fades with time. It is deep, it is unshakable, it is forged in the fire of faithfulness and strengthened by every step you take toward Him. And when you look back one day, you will see it, the purpose in the struggle, the beauty in the breaking, the way every moment was leading you somewhere greater. You will see how through every unanswered question and every unseen sacrifice, God was shaping something eternal. So don't let go now. The story isn't over. The promise hasn't faded. What He started in you, He will finish. Rise up. Keep your heart open, your spirit willing, your eyes locked on the only one who holds your future. And when you have nothing left, when your strength is gone, let that be the moment you fall into His arms, because He will carry you where your feet cannot go. Thank you for allowing these words to reach your heart, for being willing to reflect, to wrestle with truth, to step deeper into the life God is calling you to. Now let's turn to Him, not just with words, but with our whole hearts, laying down our fears, our burdens, and our need for control, knowing that His hands are the safest place for our lives to rest. Father of mercy and wisdom, I come before you weary from the weight of burdens I was never meant to carry. How often I have wrestled with what was never mine to control, striving to shape what only your hands can mold. I have ached when others did not walk the path I long for them, forgetting that I am not the author of their journey, nor even my own. Forgive me, Lord, for the times I have gripped too tightly what was always yours, for the moments I have mistaken worry for responsibility and control for love. You alone transform hearts. You alone write stories that matter. Teach me to release not with despair but with trust, a trust that rests in the certainty that you are working, even when I cannot see, that you are moving, even when everything feels still. Help me, Lord, to turn my gaze inward, not in self-absorption but in surrender. If change must come, let it begin in me. Soften the places in my heart that have grown rigid with pride. Unravel the threads of judgment that have tangled my thoughts. Set my soul ablaze with a hunger for truth, not the convenient kind, but the kind that refines, that stretches, that makes me more like you. Let me not waste today waiting for others to change when you have given me this very moment to love, to grow, to obey. I know, Father, that this road is not easy. A life of meaning is not stumbled upon. It is shaped through sacrifice, through discipline, through the daily choice to take the narrow road when the wide one calls my name. Strengthen me for the labor of faith, for the perseverance to live with integrity when no one is watching. Guard me from the temptation to blame my circumstances or others for my own stagnation when you have placed within me everything I need to rise. Let me not shrink from the hard work of transformation, knowing that every step toward you, no matter how small, is never wasted. And yet, Lord, I confess, I fear the storms, the setbacks, the struggles, the moments when I fall short of who I long to be. But even in my failures, remind me that grace is not exhausted. When I falter, let it not be shame that lingers, but a holy resolve to rise again, to take the next step, to realign my heart with yours. If hardship must come, let it refine rather than break me. If trials must shape me, let them carve in me a deeper trust, a faith that does not waver when the winds howl. Surround me, Lord, with people who sharpen and uplift me, voices that speak truth even when it is hard, hearts that love you more than they love comfort. Keep me from chasing approval where it does not matter, from clinging to voices that drown out yours. And in return, make me such a person for others, a light in their weariness, an encouragement in their struggle, a reminder that no one walks alone. Father, I surrender my fear of the unknown, my obsession with outcomes, my need to see the whole path before I take a single step. You do not call me to understand, you call me to trust, and so I choose to believe, not in wishful thinking, not in empty hope, but in the unshakable certainty that you are faithful. That every unseen sacrifice, every quiet obedience, every silent battle is known by you, that nothing surrendered to you is ever lost. Let my life be a testimony, Lord, not of control, but of surrender, not of ease, but of steadfastness, not of fleeting success, but of a heart continually shaped by your love. And when my race is done, let it be said that I walked closely with you through the valleys and the victories, through the struggles and the surrender, always pressing forward, always held in your hands. In Jesus' name, amen.